Good evening. I'm Socrates, Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. We believe digital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. When We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening and welcome to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of this great state. Mississippi is my hometown. I was born here in the state of Mississippi up in a little community called Farm Haven, Mississippi back in our Lord's year 1946. That means I'm fully grown and a matured African-American man who has seen a great deal of trouble in this great state. And the Bible says that trouble will be with you always, and it certainly has been true in that regard, because it's been a struggle in Mississippi, but we struggle forward. Sometimes we tell our children that struggle is the builder of character. And so we have a lot of character in Mississippi because we've known a lot of struggle. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, we want you to share this program with your friends and family. We want you to join our fan base and subscribe to this program so that you'll get our newsletter that we're going to be putting out in 2024. Also, we want you to send us stars and once again, share this program with your friends and family. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, we want you to subscribe to the program. Our subscriber base is growing every day. You know, we look forward to the day when we'll have 1 million subscribers that listen to what we have to say here on this podcast program that we're doing here today. So if you're watching us on YouTube, enjoy the reels and the shorts that you'll find there. Those less than 3-minute clips are very, very popular, but we hope that you will come and view the entire show. There's a lot of good information over here. Now, our website and our very own platform, WeBelieveDigital.com, is under reconstruction. We are formatting it a little different going into 2024 so that we can capture the things that you're most interested in. It seems to us now, it's proven by the statistics that Americans and the rest of the world likes to have things in less than 3-minute clips due to the retention span and due to the numerous outlets and choices that you have to get your information from. So we understand that. So we'll make all of that available to you on the website as well as on the rest of our platforms. Now, as always, my co-host, Dr. Eldridge Henderson, is in the studio with me today, and we're going to continue talking about those things that we know that matter, that others dare not talk about. Last week we had a program with one of the renowned bishops, Bishop Ronnie Crudup in Jackson, Mississippi, and we talked about subject matter that others do not tread upon. We understand that there are consequences to certain things that you do, but there are certain things that needs to be known. And so we intend to make that known out here, all truth. You know, it's straight, as my friend up in California says, no chaser. Dr. Henderson, how have you been, sir?
Well, I've been fine, Mr. Socrates. I tell you, it's a wonderful year. Almost gone. The year's gone. I've been flicking and flocking around here for the last year in the great state of Mississippi, and it's been so good to me all the 11 and a half months until I can't hardly stand it.
Wow, that is good.
Of course, and I'm talking about the state of Mississippi.
My goodness, how did you get it so good in the state of Mississippi?
Well, because I have faith in the future.
Oh.
And when I look at the past, the present, and the future, I say it has to get better. That's why I have that faith that things will start changing in America, and it has to start in Mississippi in 2024, whatever it is.
What's the definition of faith in your world?
Faith in my world is to believe that if something is good or bad in your life, if you have faith, it will remain the same or get better.
Yeah. Now,
one is going to happen.
In my Bible study program that I went to every Wednesday night for the first 20 years of my life, it said something like faith was the things spoken of that are unseen.
I heard that, yeah.
You know, it's some paraphrase in that way that you were asking for something that you cannot see.
Well, I can see the future if people do certain things. See, I hate to admit that. And I can determine what's going to happen if you do A, B, C versus D, E, X, because all actions have consequences, good and bad. It all depends on who is going to receive the good or the bad as you make adjustments in your life.
Well, would you consider yourself a prophet?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that, but you have the ability to see the future.
Of course, in certain areas of economic development, politics, religion, education and training, and international affairs. And when I say international affairs, I mean all international affairs.
Well, then we call people forecasters, people that are able to look at the indicators and tell you whether or not we're expecting any growth in the gross national product. And so they are not prophets, but they do articulate something that they believe will occur in the future.
Well, I can accept that.
Yeah,
I can accept
but
that.
there were prophets, you know.
That's right.
You know, the Jewish people believed that our Savior Jesus was a prophet. And, of course, the Muslims believe that Muhammad was a prophet. I can't exactly name all of the prophets in the Bible, but there have been some individuals, and there have been some people that have come to my church that had the gift of prophecy in the congregation, and they were around us today. Do you know any of those?
Well, I know some that have alleged that they are prophets. I've talked to a lot of them throughout the years in Mississippi and other places, but I haven't seen many real prophets because most of them that I've met during the last 30 years are not very consistent in what they've been claiming and proclaiming because of their economic situation. They always want to improve economically by staying with the church, maintaining the status quo, and enhancing their individual gain versus the gain for the population in the church. I better say the church members. That has been bad news for me. I never did approve of that.
Well, we're not going to deal too deep inside of it, but I'm glad that you see a brighter day ahead for African Americans in Mississippi. That's important because not many are forecasting that there will be significant change after this year of 2023 has just kicked a lot of people in the teeth. And I'll go back and share with you some of the things that have gone on in 2023.
Okay.
And we can talk about those, and you can tell me what your ability to forecast and the outcome of those things.
Well, let's do that.
Let's get it right into it. So we go back in 2023, and I'll remind you that we were coming out of the pandemic, the greatest pandemic experience that you and I have had. I wasn't here around polio, the great devastations of polio and the plague and things of that nature. So COVID was the greatest all of pandemics that I personally experienced. How about you?
Well, I was at the ending of polio, but it missed us. We were so far down in the country until it was sort of like COVID these days. If you were away from everyone continuously for the last 3 years, you didn't have to worry about it too much. But that was my situation in the mid-1940s.
Well,
with polio.
well, what did you think about COVID? Then some say that was a man-made virus, and some say that, it was a virus that just, got its origin from the labs and from, some say, from meat markets in some parts of China where things are sold on the street, and some think it came from there. What's your thoughts on
Well,
where
I
it
look
came
at
from?
it as a double-decker, Almost anything that happens in the world is made by nature and mismanaged by man. There's always good things out there that can keep you safe. And there are bad things out there that if you mismanage it, will get into the population or get into the climate and destroy man, insects, and everything else. It all depends on leadership and management. Some of these things are allowed to happen because man hates his enemy. Others are allowed to happen because man is a proven leader, and he would rather do something in a manner where he can put it on nature when he helped destroy the safety that they had put in place to maintain goodness, as we say. And that's economically, political, or socially.
Well, we came out of COVID in 2023. That's a good thing that happened for Americans and folk all over the world. We're no longer masking up the way we used to. We couldn't go to church back then. And the church might have seen some substantial growth during the time that the doors were closed.
Well, they have. Now, you're about right there. But see, the thing is, COVID is still with us. And if the government had turned people loose earlier, after the first year, I don't think it would have been much worse than it is today. The economy would have been better. More and more people would have been working. They would have good jobs. And those that got sick, many of them would have been not able to survive. And that's with any incident or any kind of disease. You mentioned polio. A lot of people caught polio in the 30s and 40s. But many didn't die. Many were crippled. But after they had that so-called government approval that polio wasn't a major problem, a lot of those sick people, and most of the older folks in America know, that had polio moved forward as citizens, and they did great things in economic development, politics, religion, and other areas. And many were very prosperous because they decided, I'm not going to let my weakness or my limitation deter me from moving forward because I have goals and I intend to reach them, come hell or high water. That's the attitude you have to have, Mr. Socrates.
I like that. I like that attitude. I mean, I think that's missing in our community, that attitude, but I like it. But now you're saying that we miss polio, but do you compare it to COVID? Was it worse or was COVID worse?
Well, I think more people died with COVID. Many people, attracted polio, but many of them did die, even though millions did worldwide. But I don't look at how many people died from anything. Most times death can be managed by man if they learn how to quarantine things, if they learn how to make quick changes in their leadership styles, if they learn how to stop blaming others and make an effort to look at the real problem as they see it and make adjustments. And if they find that they are wrong, all they have to do is make another adjustment and stop blaming others. That's why I always tell people, organize, don't criticize. What good that's going to do but cause more death, more people living in poverty, more hatred throughout the world.
Well, Doc, we got plenty of hatred in the world, but in 2023, we had some tremendous times here. We had a water crisis. We had the government taking over the water plant in Jackson, Mississippi, and now it's managed by a third party. And our governor was heard saying down in Hattiesburg that it was a great day to be out of Jackson, Mississippi. How do you reconcile that kind of a statement?
Well, I can understand the government's position on that. See, when you want to control everything in your environment and you don't have 100% control and you're frustrated, you do feel better sometimes when you get out of that situation. For instance, if you're in a place where it's too hot or too cold and you prefer to have moderate temperature, you want to go where the temperature will give you more relief. So if you have to go back in a few days or a few hours and do what you don't want to do, and that's tolerate something that you want to control.
I get that, but I think in this case he was referring to he wanted to be away from round Negroes.
Well, I know that. That's right. But he was smart enough not to say that directly. But when people know what one is raised with, when you know his or her history, and you have watched them for years, you can read between the lines, as people say. We know the different codes that politicians, preachers, and corporate leaders use. We call them talking points. Now, they don't do this just by circumstance. They do it because they have planned the circumstance. These are talking points that are used by people that want to give the false message.
You seem to be saying that it's a planned circumstance. I always thought a circumstance was something that occurred that no one knew it was coming or prevent it. And you're saying that they are planned circumstances.
Of course.
Now
you can call it what you want, but if you want to pretend it's natural, you say it's just something happened that man didn't expect. But you can plan almost anything you want to plan and name it anything you want. That's why names change all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
They can just give it a new name.
You just create a new name and nothing else changes.
Let's talk about this for a minute. During that period back there at COVID, the unemployment rate was so high, especially in the African American community. It might have been 50+ % unemployed. And it got so bad until the governor of the state of Mississippi ended the unemployment benefits to Mississippi citizens. He said that they needed to come back to work.
Well, he was correct.
How else can you even contemplate or think of ending unemployment benefits to citizens in the poorest state in the nation?
Well, sometimes you have a stronger citizen if you teach them to work for what they get. But now at the same time, you have to make it what I call agreeable and make it a functional type deal where they can work and get a good benefit, a good wage, not minimum wage or less. You want to have a livable wage. But sometimes when you are working and you get a free handout from the government for 18 months or 2 years, that'll make you not want to work for 18 months or 2 years after a while, because you start sitting around eating good, driving good, you're getting subsidies, and you expect that to happen continuously. And when you are released, you then get angry or upset with the government because you have to change your life.
Well, I be careful here, because the theory that benefits, unemployment, welfare, SNAP, WIC, the programs that are here to serve the poor are not designed to make the poor lazy. They are designed to help them through difficult times.
That's correct. But there's also a potential part two there. If one is giving someone the ability to adjust to difficult times, there should be some kind of carrot hanging out there that will help that person support himself later on through education or training or relocation or something, so he won't have to be dependent on any handout for too long. History shows that when you get dependent on anything too long, you want it to continue in your life until what we call further notice, or until the next generation. And that is not good, in my opinion.
Well, I know it's not good to be dependent upon government. I get that. But in 1932, times were hard. Do you remember the commodities, the cheese and everything that they brought door to door?
I remember that, yes.
You know, there was some powdered milk and some cottage cheese they were handing out from door to door in the African-American community. Not everybody couldn't get none. But
no, everybody couldn't, but in my area, a lot of white folks were getting those commodities. A lot of them. Because where I came from, you had a very large population of black and white poor folks and just a small group of rich people and what I call middle-class whites that were controlling all the economy, the politics, and everything else in the region. And they were not too interested in promoting too much sustainability that would get away from them. They wanted to maintain and control all the poor folks in that area, and that's exactly what they did, including during the wartime. They say we must control the draft, we must control the criminal activity in this area, but at the same time, we are in charge and we are not going to allow, no matter what happened, to cut down on the population we have on our plantations, because we have to maintain our status and stay in control. So when someone would mess up on the weekend, they would go to jail, they get out on Sunday night, go back to jail Friday evening or Sunday evening for a while in many areas, and I'm familiar with it because I had a lot of relatives and knew others that would get that benefit. Stay in jail during the weekend and get out early Monday morning. Someone would go down and pick them up and take them back to the plantation. And this happened all over the Delta area, all around Hinds County and many other farming communities in Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, and many other places. That was the standard operation procedure during the 30s, 40s, early 50s, and the probably first 2 or 3 years in the 1960s.
So the jails couldn't hold a white man's property?
No, that was against the law. That was against the law.
So if you got locked up, then your slave, your plantation owner, could come down to the jail and just get you out.
He could get you out.
Without no trial, without
no... No, you didn't need a trial. When you're in charge, you're the judge, you're the jury. You either determine the person's destiny or you put him in the death chamber.
That's too much power for a man to have.
Well, they had it during that period, and basically just a small percentage of them have that same power today.
Dr. Henderson, we're up against a station break. We're going to go to a break, and then we're going to come back and continue this conversation. We got a lot to discuss, so y'all stay tuned.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Now, if you go to WeBelieveDigital.com, you'll see that we have the internet radio station as well in this media company. We want you to listen to We Believe Radio, some of the best music that you ever wanted to hear. And you gotta hear HT3 on Wednesdays and Friday night with his Wind Down show. It's tremendously important. And Boogie out of Florida is doing an excellent job with soft soul and some of the best religious music you ever wanted to hear. So check us out on We Believe Radio and enjoy all of the music there. That platform, WeBelieveDigital.com, is going to be a platform that ascends to heights that have not been known by African American ownership. We look forward to that. We're growing this platform every day, and we understand that most of America now, 80% of Americans, are involved in some form of social media. More clients now depend upon social media influencers to give them recommendations on products for goods and services than any other media. No longer do we see all of the star power associated with products in terms of athletes and movie stars recommending that you use a certain brand of hair shampoo. Now you're going to hear John White over with a podcast show in Nebraska that's got 1.5 million viewers. They're going to tell you what kind of hair shampoo is best for you. And you're going to believe old John more than you're going to believe the athletes and the movie stars. So times are changing, and We Believe Digital is right in the midst of all this change, and we're glad to be here, because we know that Dr. Henderson and I will bring content that will not be heard anywhere else, and we hope that you will trust us by viewing this program, sharing it with your friends and family, and supporting the program either through subscribing on YouTube or subscribing on Facebook. You can do that as well on our fan club. Or you can donate to this program in order that we might continue to bring this kind of information. Now, Doc, we're going to get back into it. Now, African Americans were hurt in 2023 in many ways. One is that we had a governor's race in 2023, and no African American candidate was able to win an office as a statewide candidate. We have not held a statewide office since Reconstruction. Now, what is it going to take for African Americans that are 50% of this population? What is it going to take for us to be able to move into mainstream?
Well, it's going to take something that's very simple and something that's controversial. Black people in Mississippi, in Alabama, Georgia, all the southern states, going to have to start forming coalitions with other than the Democratic Party.
Now that's almost sacrilegious. Now you saying they got to form a coalition with something other than the Democratic Party?
That's correct. If you want to have what I call simple equity in some statewide positions. What blacks are going to have to do all over America is to let the Democrat Party know that we are not going to be 98% your slaves, your voting slaves anymore. We have enough sense to look at our situation, and we are going to encourage anywhere from 15 to 30% of our blacks to vote Republican in certain areas where we can influence that election. This is going to be a temporary thing, and we're going to start doing it in 2024 and mean it.
Now, no black was able to win a statewide election. Are you saying that a black would have had a chance to win if he had run as a Republican?
Not necessarily. It's best to run as an independent. Now, when you are in a situation where it's very, very difficult to win as a Democrat or a Republican when you are a marginal candidate, it is best to run as an independent, build your coalition with the Democrats and Republican leaders in counties where you are in the majority, and you'll find you have better results. And that has happened in the state of Mississippi, but it didn't happen on the statewide level. There are several independent candidates that have won. They've done a great job, and they can work with the Republicans, the Democrats, no matter who is in the White House, and get good results. And that's what black people nationwide and worldwide got to do. You got to start saying, I am a Republican or a Democrat when it's good for me, and I'm going to change when it's good for me.
Now, Doc, black people would be embarrassed to say that. You as a black person in a black group or church or public forum, black people are embarrassed to say that they are leaning toward the Republican Party.
Well, that's because, Mr. Socrates, they don't know their history. Up until 40 or 50 years ago, most blacks were Republicans, all during Reconstruction, all mostly after Reconstruction. A lot of blacks were Republicans. Now, they didn't have the Republican ability to get elected, but that's what they were. Now, starting in the North, some of the Democrats started setting up wards where they would give a few handouts to black politicians, and they would guarantee the black vote, and they start playing around with the Democrats. But those guys were just as crooked as those people that took over after the Reconstruction period.
Oh, you saying that blacks have to infiltrate, is one word, the Republican Party? They got to... I thought we had come to the position that integration was one of the worst things that ever happened in our community. It seems to me now you're saying that we denounce integration as something bad, but now you're saying that we need to become a part of the European establishment.
No, you're misinterpreting what I'm saying. I didn't say you get in any party and be a permanent member. You get in where you can fit in with the possibility of winning. For instance, if you have a county with 60% white folks, 40% black, and the white county is, the white voting people are considered Republicans, 60% versus 40% blacks. Blacks then can get among themselves and select a marginal candidate that's moderate and vote for him, even though they are 40% Democrat. If 15 to 30% of those black vote for that moderate independent candidate, whether he is black or white, and have a guarantee that if you win, I want certain positions, certain judgeships, I want to be appointed to various commissions and boards of control, I want you to guarantee that we're going to have, for instance, a black superintendent in our state government as the head of the superintendent education department. On and on and on. Not everything, but you give them a list of demands and have them to sign off on them and say, we will support you and we will give you a financial contribution.
Wow. So does this strategy apply to other things? If it applies to politics as it relates to Democrats and Republicans, does it apply to religion as well? Should all blacks be Christians?
Well, no, I don't think so. They have major religions. We talked about that last week. There are 3 major religions, but you can be one or the other. It doesn't make any difference. They all of them believe in one God. So religious denominations don't mean a thing if you don't believe in practicing what your tenets are, or your commandments, or your principles. Call them what you want. If you call yourself a Christian, you should practice certain things. If you're a Muslim, you should practice certain things. And all the basic commandments will say, generally, you ought to act like you love your enemies, which I don't believe in promoting myself, but there is something called a practicing person and an acting person.
Well, let me ask you this. Blacks worldwide, they constitute a significant population in this country. I believe probably number 3 in populations. Are most blacks Muslims or most blacks Christians? Now, I'm not talking about American blacks.
No,
talking about worldwide.
Well, worldwide, most blacks are what I consider Christians. But but it's a regional thing. In certain regions, most of them are Muslims, and there are others that are non-denominational, that practice and promote all kinds of religions. I've been telling people for the last 30 years there are over 4,500 different religions in the world. I call them cults. And all of them are man-made, including the major three that we talked about last week. So there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever your religion is, if you know what the tenets are, or the commandments, or the principles, if you would practice those every day, teach it to your family, teach it to your community organizations that you are involved in, you would have more peace and harmony and fewer wars than you would when you just don't know what you're supposed to do and you let people persuade you to take sides and fight and hate each other and raise hell and disturb the peace just because someone is telling you to do it and you're not being an independent thinker.
Got to be an independent thinker.
Got to be an independent
thinker. Whether it's in religion or whether it's in politics, whether it's in your own economy, you got to be an independent thinker.
Even on the family basis. Someone has to be the head independent thinker in that family and determine the destiny of those folks with collaboration from the others in the household. And if you don't have a permanent leader in a family, I can guarantee you have more people suffering, more people in jail, more people on welfare, and the same constant tendency to believe that all I need is the love of the Lord and some handouts from government and from my community organization. I want you to give me some toys for Christmas instead of giving me a book and a dictionary, and that's all I want. That's why you will never see any group that I support giving away toys versus a book and a dictionary. Anyone that asks me to contribute, and they tell me they're giving away bicycles and toys, I don't do it unless they tell me I'm going to get some books in there and a little dictionary that's age and grade appropriate for the people. I say, throw that in, and I'll give you some money. I have donors that'll give you some money.
Now, Doc, you're a pretty hard man.
No, I'm not hard. Jesus would approve of that.
Jesus would approve of that.
Of course.
Okay, well, then it's got to be good. Now, let's move back to Mississippi for a minute. There was some difficult times in 23. We had the Great Water Crisis, and the state took over our water plant for a while. And then after that, the feds took over our water plant, which is currently being run by the feds right now. I don't know if Jackson will ever run his water plant again. Or how do you think this outcome of this will be?
Well, it's going to be just almost as you're saying. It will be a long time before Jackson management will make the decisions as to what's going to happen with the water and the sewage situation in Hinds County. It is going to maintain in other hands, or it will be a coalition with the state and federal government and with what I call sideline influence by a few black elected or appointed officials. They will not have the decision-making ability to determine where the money is going to be spent, especially when it comes to contracts. Because we all know that when you start talking about water, you're talking about infrastructure and regulation and maintaining millions of dollars worth of contracts to keep things moving. And if you want to demean and deny blacks control of their destiny, you make sure you keep things in the state and federal coffers, their monies, in the hands of their people, not the elected citizens in the area where they are benefiting.
Well, I would say that the rap on black leadership, especially in 2023, with the inability to choose a contractor to pick up garbage when we experienced garbage being on our streets for over 2 weeks, has given black leadership a black eye. And if you don't have confidence in black leadership's ability to manage, then you find yourself vulnerable to this regional authority concept that's being talked about and bandied around with the surrounding cities. What do you think was the great failure in black leadership's ability to solve that garbage problem?
Oh, that was very simple. Consensus. The person with the power to make the final decision in that area is what I call a dual decision-making ability, the mayor and the city council. the mayor is responsible for the outward general welfare of the people in a city, whether he is a strong or weak mayor. They're going to look at him first. The city council going to be looked at second, or you might call it a board of aldermen or whatever you want to call it. So the mayor, since he is responsible, his or her job is to get that city council together, give them a good plan with at least one or two alternates that's going to be best for the citizens in that county or in that city or that town, and get in a private meeting with all the doors locked, all the phones in a box somewhere with your name on it, and say, we're going to agree on this policy where it's going to promote the general welfare of our citizen, and we're going to stay here as long as necessary, and we're going to come out with one vote and one decision. And at the same time, if we have to have food catered in here, we're going to do it. And that's what you have to do, and you make that decision because you have to have the leverage where you would say, I know where you are leaning, Councilman ABC or Alderman ABC. I'm going to expose you. And he or she will tell you the same thing. Mr. Mayor or Mr. Secretary or whatever it is, I know who you favor. And you say, well, that is correct. But I'm going to relent in my position on this matter. I'm concerned about the voters, and we got to do something. So if you have to stay in that meeting for 36 hours and have your catered food there and your water and everything, and come out smiling and hugging each other,
Now,
and then
Doc,
you go back into that meeting next time and ask for forgiveness.
Doc, I didn't see
That's a
any,
real politician.
I didn't see any of that happening.
You won't
in
see it
2023
unless people start
Doc,
changing.
there was one person that asked God some questions. He asked him how many hair was on his head. He had a full head of hair, not like you. And God told him it had 100,000 strands.
Someone said that?
Yeah. Then he asked him how many grains of sand are in the Sahara Desert. He told him 100 trillion. So how long will it take black people to come together and support one another?
Well, it will.
God said, I don't know.
Well, God might not know, and I don't know for sure, but I know it'd be much better if they would use that tactic that I just mentioned. They do it all the time.
Well, I don't see it in our community.
No,
that's
you don't,
how we
you don't
got
see it in our
garbage on
community.
the streets for
That's
2
exactly
weeks,
right.
etc. And that's why we had in our Hinds County Board of Supervisors race, we had 3 incumbents to lose their seat because of dysfunction in black leadership.
Right. Well, see, that's because the leaders that have what I call the dominant power, not involved until it's too late on who is going to be running for various positions, who is going to be put on various boards and control. Any good leader ought to have a 5 or 10-year plan that's already in writing with a designation as to who is going to be taking over certain responsibilities that he or she can't manage, and share that information with his team prior to selecting individuals. And if you get someone that's qualified and certified to carry out your functions of government, even your opponents will be surprised. They will go along with you whether they like it or not in most cases, because you can prove to them that this person is going to be impartial. This person is qualified. Even though he is black or white, he is going to be the best one in this position. And let's support him and give him at least one term in office. 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, and this is not permanent. When things get better, it has been agreed, and I've talked to this person, he or she is going to resign, or he or she is going to get promoted, or we're going to help them find a better job with the state government or the federal government. That's the way you have to do it, Mr. Socrates.
Doc, I think that you would do well to be a consultant for our leaders and maybe go down there and spend some time with them, because those things that you are expressing are not in place in our local government at this time, not in place in our state government. Doc, we talk a lot about the local government in terms of the mayor and the city council and the board of supervisors, but we have the largest number of African Americans in the state legislature of any other state. How do you see them performing?
Well, they're going to perform probably a little worse than they did in 2023 if they don't make some better decisions. Because a lot of those black Democrats are nothing but Republicans. You know, a few of them. I would say about 2%. And the Republicans know it. And the Republicans also know that those Democrats that lean in their direction wouldn't be in office if they would declare themselves a Republican. So they help get those boys and girls elected. And on key issues, I guarantee you there's going to be 1 to 2% of those black Democrats voting for everything the Republicans want. I mean, those critical issues. Now, sometimes they're going to use the old tactic that a lot of politicians use. On voting day, they're going to abstain. The next time, in order not to embarrass themselves and show that they are Republican, they're going to get sick and say, I had to go to Chicago to visit my sick mother. All kinds of reasons and problems they're going to throw at their constituents. That's good politics, but it's not good for the constituent.
Now, we had some bills that came out of the legislature in 2023 that have set precedents. And that could be seen as a pilot case for all urban cities, where the legislature passed a bill to install a road police department within the city limits of Jackson, Mississippi, appoint a police chief, and then appoint judges to hear the cases and bypass the mayor, bypass the local district attorney, bypass all elected officials. Now, should the members of the legislature been hollering foul and screaming from the top of their lungs that there's something rotten in Denmark up here?
No. All they had to do, Mr. Socrates, is get with the leadership and say, if you don't make this thing more democratic, if you don't show more equity towards the leadership in these specific areas, not only are we going to not vote for you, all of us in the House and the Senate going to walk out. We're going to walk out at the same time on the same day, and we're going to do our voting in the streets. We're going to call the international media and expose you, even though you know you're wrong, you know we are right, and your history shows you care nothing about what's right or wrong when it comes to preserving power. But we're going to change this in this city, in this state. And tomorrow will be the day. And I guarantee you there will be some compromises made. If tomorrow is the vote, they're not going to vote tomorrow. They're going to pull you in and talk to you and throw a crumb here and there and take this off the legislative slate. Add something else.
Compromise.
Compromise. That's where you have to go, sir. Have to compromise. Anything can be compromised. Anything.
I got you. We've come to the end of our program for this evening, but one of the things that we hope that you're getting from this program is that there are some specific things that have to be done to bring change about in our great city, in our state, and in all urban cities. I said this is a pilot case. If this thing works out the way that the Europeans think and hope that it will, and there have been some reductions in crime, I cannot deny that. And so if this thing works out, then you'll see police departments put in other cities, in Atlanta, in Detroit, in Memphis, that were not elected and do not report to the mayors of those great cities. But we're sounding the alarm, but at the same time, we're saying we're going to give you strategies on how to circumvent this plan and how blacks should be acting as black elected officials and leaders. Doc says they should be screaming, they should walk out, they should call the international media, they should make a big fuss. That's what we pay them for, that's why we sent them down there. Doc, give us your closing remark for this program.
Well, I just want to tell you, Mr. Socrates, I think you've done a great job in putting a national, really international network together. You talk all the time about how people are listening and viewing your shows. You have a great institution here. It might be too young to be called an institution, but I appreciate this opportunity to come and work with you from time to time and give the real news on what people need to do to change their lives during their lifetime, from birth to death. And if folks want to hear additional information about some of the strategies they can use as black folks, as poor white people, as just regular citizens in the individual states, all you have to do is call us at 601-201-1957 or email us at clu369@gmail.com, and we'll come to your school, your church, your community organization, and give you a specific craft outline of what you can do in your Pacific area, economically and politically, and of course socially, if you let us know where your problems are in those areas, and we can give you a 30, 60, or 90-day plan, and you can work that plan without announcing what you're doing, and you'll start seeing change in 30, 60, or 90 days in your community. That's it, Mr. Sock. Or they can just call you at 1-800-492-5186.
Thank you, Doc. Now, we want you to stay tuned. Shortly coming up is Organize, Don't Criticize with Dr. Eldridge Henderson, and I'll be his co-host on that show. So get you a coffee break. Try Earth Blend Coffee. Enjoy that for a moment and get right back here. Let's deal this program and let's hear what Organize, Don't Criticize has got to say coming up. So until then, good evening.